What's up guys, Ashton here from Muse Themes, and welcome back to another tutorial video. We've just released our document viewer widget for Muse, and I'm going to give you a brief walkthrough of the setup and features. It's a pretty simple widget, but it's actually really cool and a perfect widget for displaying documents on your website. Many of you may remember our PDF viewer widget for Muse, which was a really popular widget in our library, so we wanted to take the opportunity to extend its power and functionality. So our new document viewer widget takes that same functionality to a whole new level. We built the widget with versatility in mind, so it supports a broad range of document types now, like PDFs, of course, Word docs, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, and a lot more. You can use files that are local on your computer and upload them to the site's server to display that way, or you can even display a document that's hosted elsewhere, like Google Docs or Google Sheets. We've got a variety of examples here on the live demo, and you can see that the viewer has its own scroller, so you can display large or long documents without taking up a ton of room on your page. I'm going to switch over to Muse and just work with a blank page over here, but this could be easily incorporated into any pre-existing site that you may have. And let's incorporate our document viewer widget to display right here in the center. So we'll jump right into our library, grab the widget, and drop it on our page. I'll go ahead and center it on my canvas. And feel free to size the widget as wide and tall as you'd like your viewer to appear in your browser. Now let's take a look inside the settings panel. Couple simple options to get us started here. Our first two options are the two different ways that you can load a document into the widget. We can upload it directly to the server or paste the URL here for a remote document. Let's take a look at upload first, which we can do here by simply selecting Add File. And we'll be prompted with our Finder window to navigate to any document on your computer. I've got a PDF prepared right here, so we'll select it. And there we go. It's that simple. Now let's check out how we can use a remote file. Now you may want to display a document that's already hosted somewhere else on the internet, and you can do that no problem. We simply need to grab the link to the file. Now in most cases, your file URL will end in the name of the file extension, such as mysite.com/mydocument.pdf, similar to if you were linking to an off-site video file of some kind, like if the file had been uploaded via FTP to your server. However, in other cases, such as Google Docs, Google Sheets, or Dropbox links, these will not end in the file extension type. I'm going to click over to a sample here that I've got loaded into Google Sheets. And simply enough, to utilize this document, we can click our Share button here on the top right, and we click Copy Link, just like that. And before you do this, you will want to make sure that the permission settings of whatever document you're using are set to the most public possible. As seen here, I have this set to anyone on the internet can find and view. Having privacy restrictions will limit the widget's ability to properly display the document. And one more note I want to make here before we go back to Muse. If you're using a Dropbox link, you can acquire the shareable link the same way, but you'll want to make one small change to it. I have an example over here I'm going to switch to really quick. If any of you use Dropbox sharing often, you're probably familiar with how the URLs have this DL equals 0 at the end of the URL, which is basically a download command for the URL. You'll want to change this to DL equals 1. That's what's going to allow the widget to properly access and utilize the document from Dropbox. But I've already copied my Google Sheets link, so let's head back to the widget. And here inside the settings panel, one thing you'll want to keep in mind here, when you've got a file loaded already into the locally hosted section above it like we do now, it's going to override the remote URL option. So it's important to remember to remove this file like so, if we're going to use the remote file option. There we go. And now we can paste our link here under remote file URL. And it's that simple. Before we do anything else, let's give the page a quick preview to make sure everything's functioning. And there we go. It sits nicely on our page, completely interactive with its own scrolling capabilities, allowing me to navigate the entire document here directly on the page without needing to download anything first or load any new browser tabs. Pretty awesome. Back to that settings panel really quick. There's one more parameter here before we go into the styling section. It's called Reload Attempt Delay, and that's in milliseconds. This parameter attempts to basically reload the document if it fails to be loaded from the remote location. So larger files here, larger documents, it might benefit to have a longer delay time, so feel free to adjust this accordingly. So basically those two different methods give you a ton of freedom regarding the types of documents you might want to display. And as I mentioned before, there are a ton of file types supported by this viewer widget. Before we close out, let's drop down our styling section here, just a couple quick things to mention. Preload Color. You may have noticed on our preview there was a small graphic that appeared on the screen as the document was being loaded, and that serves as a little preloader, just in case your document takes an extra moment to load after your page comes into view in the browser. You can pick any color you want here. And finally, we have options for a border here. You can customize the width, color, and opacity, which will give the entire viewer a nice frame around it in the browser. So that's our document viewer widget for Muse. Thanks again for watching. If you have any issues at all, don't hesitate to let us know in support. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next video. Take care.